Rommel. This single name could cause a chill running down the spines of British soldiers and officers in the autumn of 1941. Rommel's Afrika Korps seemed to be invincible. They'd already destroyed everything that the Allies had achieved in Libya. His troops reached the borders of Egypt. They were one step away from entering Cairo and seizing the Suez Canal. Tobruk was cut off, being under siege. Think about it. Commander-in-Chief of the Middle East Theatre, Sir Claude Auchinleck, had to actually issue an order forbidding the pronouncing of Rommel's name so that his troops stopped considering him to be superhuman. Well, that must have worked, mustn't it? But the Desert Fox himself wasn't happy during those days. The communications between his army were unstable and stretched to the extreme. Supplies were coming late and irregularly. The damned Eastern Front was taking more and more, as it became the main direction of the Reich's military campaign. It was impossible to attack further under those conditions. He could only think about trying to keep what he'd already got. He couldn't even storm Tobruk, though he desperately needed its port. The stand on the border between Libya and Egypt took almost half a year. Rommel could not attack, and the Allies could not dare to. Churchill was furious at his doubting generals and finally got them to do something. On November 18, 1941, the 8th British Army pushed forward. The Allies had almost twice as many tanks, more than half as many soldiers, and a lot more aviation equipment than the Germans. But what they did not have was experience on any level, from privates to staff sergeants to senior officers. British generals still thought in terms of World War I. They couldn't really plan an operation this big. In the end, they decided to divide their tank forces into two parts. One should attack the enemy in the front, along the coastline, while the other, outfitted with the newest Crusader tanks, was about to outflank the enemy through the desert. According to the plan, they would wind up in the Germans' rear, unite with the forces of the station sieged in Tobruk, and cut the Axis forces from their supply lines. After that, the British command thought Rommel would only have one option: to surrender. As for the heavy Matilda tanks, their task was cooperating with the infantry troops. Great plan, right? But while the newest Crusaders were going round in the desert, Rommel had already managed to stop the Grants and the Stuarts and made their accompanying troops look for cover. The British were so reckless in their offensive actions that they had managed to take losses even from the 123rd Italian Ariete Tank Division, the one that they'd been laughing about for some days before that. So when the Crusaders of the 30th Tank Corps tried to unleash mayhem on Rommel's forces from the desert, they found out that he'd already been waiting for them. German and British tanks, as well as lots of infantry and artillery forces, met in a huge battle. The air was also crowded with planes fighting each other. But this fight wasn't about the speed or armor or guns. It was about quick thinking and adequate reactions to the ever-changing situation. And this is where the British command wasn't anywhere close to the Desert Fox. As early as on the 21st of November, his tanks stopped the offensive British forces, localized them, and went on the offense themselves. Not for long, though. They desperately lacked fuel. For the same reason, the united forces of the Luftwaffe and the Regia Aeronautica weren't very active in the sky either. The British gradually got the lead in the air. The most awful day for the Goering pilots was the 5th of December, when the 112th RAF Squadron demolished a regiment of the German Junkers 87 bombers. The commander of that squadron, Clive Robertson Caldwell, grounded 5 of them himself, which made him a part of a very close circle of those who became an air ace in one day. Everything that Rommel was left to do was lift the siege from Tobruk and commence the long retreat to the west. This wasn't a victory, though. They just made the Germans take a step back. British, Australian, New Zealander, South African and Indian casualties counted more than 17,000. More than half of their tanks were lying in the hot African deserts burning. Still, they managed to achieve the main goal, because now they knew Rommel could be defeated. He was talented and sly, but he wasn't a superhuman or a clairvoyant. The main battle against him, way more horrible, was still ahead, and somewhere very far in the east, under the walls of Moscow, tanks of Guderian were also burning and turning back. The Blitzkrieg was turning into the prolonged war.